You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. John Carpenter, The Early Years. Escape from New York.
Welcome to the second season of the Seasons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to look into the horror films, dissecting them one screen legend at a time. Our second horror legend and focus for this current season is director, writer, producer, composer, John Carpenter. And the emphasis is that we will look back at his earlier career and the emphasis. And the impact that he had on the horror film genre.
Yes.
In order to do this, we have a small group of horror aficionados to dissect each film one by one. And first up is yours truly, Paul Farrell. I'm the lead surgeon, of which point we'll lead you to the Big Cheese, Anthony Yee.
Big cheese.
And lastly, Ben Skinner.
I am actually eating cheese. Right?
You are eating cheese.
Paul's other name is
a
the
cheese
Badger.
toasty.
I am the Badger.
You'll get this right by the end of this Carpenter series. I think you probably will get it.
Well, I'm hoping so. This is the last of the early season that we're going to be
Okay, so
looking at.
you can't redeem yourself now.
So, the last subject in the John Carpenter Early Sessions is Escape from New York, which is providing some kind of musical accompaniment to.
That's awesome!
Did he
So
mow?
fucking awesome.
Did he mow?
Now, can you do it without that music and just do what you were doing?
Nah, just
Meow.
But you got to do the other bits, because Ben will do the.
Are you actually looking up the cat remix of that?
Yeah, you should. You do sound like a cat.
Oh, that's brilliant.
A chorus of cats. An album of Carpenter
Honestly,
tracks
that'll
sung
probably
by
work by
cats.
some
Carpenter Cats.
Oh my fucking
Because it's all
god!
Casio keyboard.
There, right there. You heard it here first on Surgeons of Horror podcast.
Patent pending.
Yeah, that's genius.
Got it. In that thing. Dear John, all this great work you've done, we're just going to butcher the shit out of it with cats.
I think he'd appreciate it.
I think you would. So look, this is we're up to this is our last of the early sessions of.
So you would do it early sessions, early
season.
career that ends at New York.
We're doing it ending at New York because you know what follows.
The thing.
Yeah.
I would argue that it starts. His second phase starts with New York.
No, I disagree.
All right, fair enough.
Is that because of the Russell?
My
connection?
conclusion is that this is a quantum leap in his storytelling.
Yeah.
This is a clear class above everything he's done up to this point.
Yep.
That's why I say.
It also changes up genres again, but I suppose he's always been a genre hopper. But if you were thinking at this point that he was a horror guy,
Yeah, exactly.
he then goes, no,
You would argue
not the
he's
case.
He's a Western
Fuck you.
guy. It's a Western.
He's all about westerns.
But I think this is a quantum leap. But also, I am totally biased, I admit, because this is the first film I was old enough to watch.
Right.
Because my parents cared about my psychological well behaviour, unlike your folks.
Yeah.
Let you see this sort of shit.
No. This is one of the first M-rated films I think I was allowed to see.
And so for me, this is my first John Carpenter film, really.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have associated this is the guy who made Halloween. And so this is very adult and cool and gritty, and I was like, this is so amazing.
But it's leaning more towards again your genre. Like we're this post-apocalyptic
Sci-fi
world, and it's sci-fi and
dystopian future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which would start sweetening the honey for you a little bit.
It would.
No, I totally get it.
But I mean, we'll argue it later. But talk about it later. I think filmmaking wise, it's just quantum.
There's so much going on with this that's
amazing.
I mean, like we're now talking that I think last film we spoke about was The Fog.
Yes.
He was given 1.1 million to go. It cost about
$5 and a
that.
bit.
This is about 5 and a bit. Yeah. So again, big jump up again.
But
So
it's on screen for me. It's it's a different genre.
It's also
and there's a certain James Cameron is involved in
it's
Jimmy.
world building.
It
It's
is.
doing
Yeah,
that
he's
world building
building
for
his
the first
house,
time.
so, yeah. And he's done a great job. Anyway, let's go.
So I need to look this up, but there is something out there called the post-apocalyptic trilogy when it comes to John Carpenter. So Assault on Precinct 13 would definitely be the first of that.
Yeah, you could argue that. Yeah, it's a dystopian
Yeah.
reality where.
And
police
so now
stations-
we're getting this. I'm not sure what the third one is,
It's
but
not Escape from LA, is it?
no. I don't think so. Well, let's hope not. Well, if in that case, the third one's always the weakest. So, you know. Yeah. So there you go. Anyway, something to kind of ponder as we go through this. So the idea of any listeners that have just coming into this is just we're three guys talking shit around iconic legends of the horror industry, and we have done Wes Craven and his earlier films. And back to the innuendos again. And now we're doing John Carpenter.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
So the idea is that we're starting to kind of, I mean, obviously not all of these films are horror, but we're starting to look at, but these are auteurs of horror films, and we're just looking at what shaped their career and what kind, and how they went on to create some great horror films down the track. But in order to do that, we need to kind of share that journey. Of which this is Escape from New York. Yay. And now we're going to talk about the journey within Escape from New York and talk around the plot line. Yep. And as is the normal run of things, Ben and Ant will share their quips and observations as I kind of talk through the actual plot line. Once again, very signature opening with the music that we're given. He always opens with the music coming in, with the credits coming up. He kind of also mentioned you always know when you still don't have a lot of budget, even though this is a little bit bigger. He said the big giveaway is the white credits on a black background. You kind of know that you've not got
again.
Much
and we're talking before about Stranger Things. Yeah, which plays on Monster. Does Stranger Things credits actually have film scratches in it? It's very subtle.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I was like, that was clever. But it's very, very subtle. Yeah.
It's not Grindhouse.
No, it's not. Not on your face. Like
yeah. Like they actually dirtied up the film, I think, with Grindhouse. But yeah, it's definitely become a trope in itself, hasn't it?
Oh,
if you want to do a throwback, you
I
do
did it for the Christmas wheel a few years back when I was throwing out takes in the back of it. I put film scratches in there. Yeah. Just to show that this is an outside.
Oh, but I mean, also just the white text on the plain background.
Exactly.
It's like that in itself, and whatever the font you choose is very like
if it's
arcs back to a certain time,
closer to New York Times rather than Ariel, and it's the 80s. But the thing about the music though, like it's such a cliche that he does his own music and they all sound the same, but it sounds so fucking cool.
They sound the same, but they sound different. Like they are kind of.
You can tell from the same author from the same keyboard.
Yes,
to me.
yes.
But that's such cool because he doesn't overpower the movie. He just pulls 3 or 4 chords that work.
Yeah.
That sets a tone and the Escape from New York was one of the best he's ever done.
It's probably the closest to like and it probably influenced like those side-scrolling beat-em-up games. Streets of Rage and
it's so true.
Ninja Turtles and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, so good. All right, so we're given the credits. We're given some a bit of background to the current state of affairs here. There's a caption that reads, 1988, the crime rate in the United States rises 400%. Manhattan Island has been turned into a huge prison, which has been cut off and separated from the mainland.
This is 1991.
This is 1980. Technically, it was 1980.
The
year just said. Oh, yeah, 1980. This is 1988.
Okay, 1991, because I saw on the thing, it's 91 to 97.
97.
The movie takes place in 97.
That's correct.
So, okay.
Yeah. Cool. Voiced by Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, who at the time, I thought she sounded like...
Uncredited.
Yes.
Just to add.
But her voice sounded like Major Barrett, who is the computer voice in Star Trek, and the wife of Gene Roddenberry.
Yep.
And I remember seeing a VHS version of this movie soon after Star Trek The Next Generation came out, and Major Barrett was the voice of the Enterprise.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, it's her. Because her voice does sound older.
Yes.
But when you point out it's Jamie Lee Curtis, then you see it. But if you don't know, you're like...
Yeah, that's right. You don't instinctively pick that up.
Okay.
Yes.
So anyway, New York has been cut off.
Yeah. So and there's like these. There are no guards inside the prison, and the rules are something the inmates have to set up for themselves. So and we're told one rule: you go in, you don't come out.
As a kid in Australia, where America was still this pretty mythical place in the 80s, this was totally believable.
Yeah.
Because we'd all heard that you don't go into Central Park in New York and stuff.
Yeah, it was still that gritty New York
mud and shit.
It was very seedy still.
There was an incident where some woman got attacked.
Yeah.
Really badly. And that was front page news, and that really...
It's like, if you're going for like, that gritty, it's the seedy New York trilogy. It's like Taxi Driver... the Warriors and Escape from New York, like the three of them together.
It's all gangs and stuff.
Yeah.
And 97 seemed a light year away. Tell you, this is completely...
at the time, yeah. It's interesting, like, listening to the copy I had, the DVD copy that I had, with the audio commentary from John Carpenter and Kurt Russell talking over the top. But even then, that was before 1997. Right. So, like, they're going, "Oh yeah,
must have been a laser disc."
Yeah, I don't know what I got it from. But like they were saying, like he was saying, like, "Oh, that's just a couple of years away. You know, it's hard to think." Blah blah blah. And I'm just like, "Really?" Anyway,
you're so old.
yeah.
It's a better way to immediately date a commentary.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, look. So it's all it's all a bit interesting at this stage. So you found the whole concept of isolating Manhattan Island and turn that into a prison a believable thing. And I'm not saying that with any kind of intonation or accusation, because I did too.
America was a very mythical place.
Yeah.
For Kid Grant Australia, it's a place where money is green.
Yeah.
Guns are readily available.
Yeah.
Car chases. It's all. I mean, to me, it was like, okay, I take that as if you said that. That's what it's going to be like in the future. I'll believe it based on what I've heard about New York and movies, like the
ones you mentioned. Yeah. No, and likewise, I kind of found it was a very believable setup as well, and within it. So it was interesting. So now we then are told, we're given by courtesy of another caption that it's 1997. So we're kind of fast tracking, 10 years down the track. We see the prison wall that's been set up around the Manhattan Island, and there's a guard that walks the perimeter with the New York skyline in the background, which is a painting. And this is Jimmy Cameron's team. James Cameron. And so we have this kind of, as it's going up the wall, it kind of has this, turns to black, and then, you get this kind of, fade up, and then it's all in one tracking shot. Obviously kind of through the magic of film, it's a seamless transition to what would then be the New York skyline in the background. Matte painting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the Twin Towers are still there.
The Twin Towers.
They were in '97.
They were, but then here's the thing: because it's a version of a dystopian future, you can kind of get away with that still working today. I think,
totally.
Even though now we are looking at.
You mean like an altered timeline?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it kind of can work because it's still this kind of version of a future society that you can, So
it's becoming the towers now have become like a placeholder for. You can always tell like what period of film.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. Okay, so we then see two escaped convicts out on the waterfront there, on a makeshift kind of raft, and they're trying to gain freedom. They're warned to turn back, they don't, and they just get blown to Kingdom Come.
What did they think was going to happen?
I don't know. I think it's kind of like, I don't know whether that. I mean, obviously that sets up the premise that you can't fucking get out, can't escape. But there is a bit of me that kind of that instinctively kind of thought of Alcatraz, and on the island and trying to escape, and people did try to do that.
I mean too, because my ex was East German, and she told me stories about people would always try to get over the wall or under the wall, and she lived in an apartment block that oversaw the wall. Yeah, so a lot of people would at night stay overnight on top of her apartment block and set up a glider and try and jump or parachute and jump.
Jeez.
And she'd wake up in the morning in the balcony, and then she'd see police and the tarpaulin covers the body that didn't make it. And she'd go, somebody else tried to jump. And that was how semi-regular it was.
Jeez, yeah.
So,
God, that's scary, isn't it?
I know, it's insane. Well, that's, you either go over or you go under. That was the thing.
Yes. Yeah, there was there's a film that's been made about going under the wall, which was allegedly true.
Yeah. There's a museum dedicated, and all the escape devices that people have used over the years is in the museum. And it's really inventive.
Yeah, right.
Because there's others would try to go by the river.
Okay.
And others try to hide in suitcases in the back of cars. And how do you fix the suspension so it's not running low? It's
far out. Anyway,
yeah. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah. So then we see the helicopter flying back over the skyline, and we meet Rain at this point, who's kind of like a head of security chap, played by Tom Atkins, who we've seen in The Fog.
Now, this is a hell of a shot.
Yeah. So this is the bit Liberty Island.
Yes.
So we're seeing the helicopter pan over a statue. Yeah. It pans down. We then follow Tom Atkinson's character into a security booth.
Yes.
And do you want to take over?
The camera keeps tracking, goes full frame black for a second, and then it keeps tracking into a helicopter pad and planes and troops, and that's in another city.
Yeah, completely different city. So the set that was shot in LA.
And that was done well because this is not computer controlled.
Yes,
where you can control exactly the same frame.
No, that's right.
It was all done by hand by Dean Cundy and his crew.
Dean Cundy,
really well done.
Yeah.
Because again, if you hadn't pointed it out, I wouldn't have.
It's a fine example. This film in particular is a fine example of how good Dean Cundy was as a DOP.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's worked with Carpenter previously, but he's really coming into his own year.
Same thing. They're really, I think they've really stepped up their filmmaking.
But I do wonder, like, when a decision like that is made, it's like, who's more, like, is it Carpenter that suggests something like that, or is it him that steps up and says, look, I think we can do this in one shot, like.
Yeah.
From my understanding, Carpenter has been and he's been praised for being quite allowing people to kind of bring forward their ideas and suggestions. So he's kind of very open, even actors and that he's willing to kind of go, yeah, okay. In fact, this is a good moment for me to say Harry Dean Stanton, when they got him on board for the role of Brain in this, he basically read the script. He said, I like the idea of it, but I don't like any of the lines. Can I change them? And John Carpenter said, yeah, sure, as long as you stick to the plot line, I don't care. So all the lines that Harry Dean Stanton says in it are his own.
That's ideal.
That sounds very Harry Dean Stanton-esque.
Yeah.
But,
so look, so
it
it goes
on the director. Just answering your question. I think if he's a visual director, then he would probably say, "I'm thinking this. Can you do this?" But I can also imagine a DOP, if he's invested, goes, "Well, you know what? We could do this."
I'd imagine they sound that they would have been quite collaborative.
Yeah. It sounds and also just to add too, like someone else has, I can't remember who it was. It was somebody in the audio commentary kind of has likened Carpenter to Hitchcock in the fact that he just knows exactly what he wants from the shots too. So they're like he'll already be planning the next shot as they're kind of wrapping. The next one, like he's always that one step ahead, and he goes, right, this is what I want to do.
That's kind of what Cameron does as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of so there must be a bit of I guess room for fluidity there, but he's also aware of what he wants from the film that he's shooting. Anyway, so it's a famous shot anyway that a lot of people have talked about and how clever it was. We now get the this point where a helicopter lands, a coach pulls up, and then out steps a handcuffed Snake Plissken, played by Kurt Russell. And he's led by armed guards and down a secured location.
Can I just say,
that's
such an 80s name for a hero, Snake Plissken.
Apparently taken from a real person.
Snake Plissken.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
And who didn't think they wouldn't sue his ass off, saying, that's me. Wait, what? I got two kids. I've told you this. Two kids I play cricket with. One is called Brad Craven.
Yes.
And the other one is called Brock Logan. And I thought you two need to set up a private eye. Hi, Brad Craven, my partner, Brock Logan.
Has got that.
But the 16-year-old kid says, hi, how are you? It's very funny.
It's all right.
But I was like...
We can wait 10 years.
Yeah, well, particularly Brock, I said, did your parents want you to be an alcoholic PI?
It's like, what's a PI?
Yeah. It was very funny.
So anyway, like interesting though is he gets taken down into like this secured location, and there's like the orange borderline security. I couldn't help but think about flying. You call it flying high out here. We call it airplane. You know, there's no parking in the white zone.
That's right.
And that's just came in my head with the orange line. I'm like, what can you do in the orange zone? Anyway,
suckers are great.
But we are told that. There's, I think it's some kind of voicing or something over the top, which says something about you have the option to be terminated or cremated. And I was like,
so you see, Michael Palin crucifixion,
termination, cremation,
crucifixion.
Anyway, so he's kind of getting led down this way. We then go back outside where a limo pulls out, and out steps a character called Hawk, played by Lee Van Cleef.
Let's call him Hawk.
But not spelled H-A-W-K. It's H-A-U-K.
Oh,
Hawk.
That's
Hawk.
Hawk.
Anyway.
Hawky.
Could be that.
But there, Lee Van Cleef.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah. And then Reem greets him and leads him downstairs to the same location that Plisken's been led to. A voice is picked up of a hijacked aircraft that is about to crash. It is revealed to be holding Air Force One. Cut to inside, and we have, there's a woman flying the plane. She announces her terms, and then we.
Oh, she's a terrorist.
She's a terrorist, yeah. And then we go inside the actual travelling compartment, and we meet the president, who's played by Donald Pleasance.
The offspring of Maggie Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, apparently.
Yes, that's right. He gave himself his own background story, which John Carpenter went, yeah, that's great, and then just carried on regardless. Apparently, by all accounts, Donald Pleasance had so much fun playing this,
did he?
and there was a lot of people that are like, why are you casting a British guy as the president of the United States? But like, it sounded like he was having a lot of fun.
He's a very unlikely president.
Yeah,
I think.
But I think it works in this because he's but he comes across as a bit weak and bumbling too, which we all know Brits are very good at. I can say that because I'm a Brit, right?
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah.
But this is also, he wrote this during
Reagan,
not Reagan, fucking Nixon.
Oh, the Nixon period.
And so this was his.
Oh yeah. Well, he wrote it like 1974.
Yeah, so way back.
Yeah. So we see that the president's there. He handcuffs a suitcase to his wrist, climbs inside this egg-shaped pod.
Orange pod.
Yeah.
It looks like an egg. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
and I was
like an egg.
It's very striking because it's like, what is this? And that was an escape pod.
It was an escape pod.
Shaped like an egg.
Because the plane's about to be flown into a building.
That's prescient.
Woo!
So I think Air Force One does actually have an escape pod for the president.
Yes, apparently does.
So.
You'd imagine it would.
It just hit flush on the toilet, I think.
Yeah, it's good. Just stand in the bowl,
on the
please,
check.
Mr. President.
Why do we have these two buttons so close to each other? That's just an accident waiting to happen. I should think about that.
I just escaped my poo.
Shut up.
Anyway, he's also given a locator device, which is attached to his wrist as well.
That's right.
The escape pod is released just as the plane crashes into a building. We don't actually physically see the plane crash because of budget reasons, but they did kind of do like that kind of animation computer kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it
goes. Then we go back to Hawk, and he's basically kind of gets a squad together to go in and retrieve the president. Lands on the island as they search for him, and they discover the pod but no president inside. So we're getting that kind of very kind of desolate kind of. It's the first time we were inside, and this was actually apparently shot in St. Louis.
Yes, that's right.
And it was after
out.
A fire had taken place there, that wiped out whole blocks. Yeah, and they kind of went in there, and it does give a very good.
Well, they lucked out because my first thought was like, oh, that's a studio. When I got a bit older, I thought that's a studio. It's not. It's a real location, and they lucked out because it wasn't like it was almost there. They just throw junk in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that saves a lot of time and money.
Absolutely.
And they had cooperation from the city apparently to turn off the lights. Kurt Russell tells a really good story as Pliskin in there.
Yeah.
He walked because there was the.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, so he walks around the corner.
Yeah.
And he runs into Fall Guys, and the Fall Guys went, "Oh, easy, bro," and then backed off. He was like, "Oh, okay," because he thought his heart stopped when he saw them, and he went, "Ah, shit." And then he ran off to come up. I think this guy's going to work. He's very scary. I just scared Fall Guys.
He does talk like that too.
He just drops it on a few octaves
when he's playing Snake.
Well, Pliskin it's Eastwood, right?
Yeah, he's
so fucking Eastwood.
well, he came up with the idea with the voice apparently because of Lee Van Cleef,
right?
Because he went, well, I've got to sound like Eastwood to kind of be opposite it, so that's where he kind of tuned in. I did read somewhere because he has the eye patch too, and in the audio commentary, they kind of sort of, it apparently was Kurt Russell's idea, and he kind of said, yeah, I'm not really sure where that came from, but I definitely read somewhere that it was a nod to John Wayne in True Grit.
Oh, okay.
With the patch.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But they didn't mention it in that, so I was like, I don't know where I read that, but there you go.
The only thing I thought with the patch is for seeing later on is like it's not good for your peripheral vision.
Oh yeah.
So he should have gotten killed in that particular scene anyway.
But he's Snake Plissken.
He's Snake Plissken, yes.
It's not gonna happen.
Anyway.
So
this guy comes out. He's really fucking creepy.
Yeah.
So that's because when he confronts Lee Van Cleef, where's the president?
Yes.
Does it happen then at this point?
Yeah.
And he shows him his finger.
Yeah, that's right.
They got him, and that was a kid. I'm like, oh, that's so gross.
So that guy is Frank Doubleday, who was in Assault from Precinct 13, played the White Warlord character.
Right.
Oh, is that where he's from?
He is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Kurt Russell has
connected.
said about this character, who's called Romero after George Romero, has said that Frank Doubleday's character sets the tone for.
Yes, he does.
Because
he's the first person in the world that you see.
Yeah.
And you realise this is a fucked up place. If an example of one of the citizenry.
Because for a while, even when Pliskin eventually gets there, there's a long period before we actually see people.
Yeah, that's right. And
So
you don't
it's
see their faces. They're like
No, just shadows. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, he's really disturbing. And
Yeah,
the
he
finger
is.
really sets the tone.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, this is not a good place to be.
So basically you're right. So that he kind of comes from walking down the street, and eventually, and the way he walks and the way he presents himself is
it's
very
creepy, man.
And
Yeah.
tactically, it's smart. He says, if anything happens to me, he's dead.
Yeah.
And so he's in such a vulnerable position, but they can't touch him.
No.
So again, so for me, straight away, it's like it's a scary place.
Yeah.
But these people own it, so they're very smart.
Yeah.
And you don't fuck with them. And they cut fingers off.
They do.
Viscerally, I'm like, do not want to be here. Which is great, because Pliskin dies in the heart of it. So you feel peril for him.
That's right. That's right. So as you said, the guy walks up to Hawk. He basically says, "You touch me, he dies. You're not in the air in 30 seconds, he dies. You come back in, he dies."
Yeah, and he counts down and doesn't.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah,
Like,
so good.
He tries to negotiate 20 seconds.
So of course, they have to leave.
That's because go back.
But and they have no option. But luckily, Hawk has another plan, and we cut to an office where him and Snake have a chat about the dire circumstances. We get some background to Snake here. We find out that he was a war veteran with 2 Purple Hearts to his name, and and apparently he was the youngest to be decorated by the president.
Oh, and then he says the president's been kidnapped, and
Yeah.
he says the coolest line for the 40. How old I was, 10, 11. Prisoner of what? Oh, such a cool line.
Apparently, and this is another good instance here. So John Carpenter co-wrote this with Nick Castle.
Yes, he did. The Shape.
The Shape, yeah, and who also, as we spoke about in the last podcast, was the director of the last stuff. What Carpenter has said about reason of bringing Castle says he was brought in to kind of help kind of the fluidity of it a bit, because Carpenter was kind of finding it a little bit. He had the structure of it, but he needed something else in. Carpenter says of Castle that he basically brought the humour into it, of which that would be one of the lines.
Yeah,
that,
it's a great example.
Which is pretty important for a movie this dark.
You need
to have that.
brevity.
Yeah,
for sure.
So they have this kind of conversation, and basically Hawk offers Pliskin the chance for freedom if he can rescue the president. And he's then shown an array of like tools and gadgets, very Bond-esque style, that will aid him in his quest. And then he's told that he has less than 24 hours to retrieve the tape recording located in the suitcase that the president has on him, which details a way of stopping the ongoing war. It's one of those MacGuffin.
It's MacGuffin,
ploys. Snake is then injected with a small explosive device to make sure that he can go ahead with the plan.
Do you mind if I inject you with a small explosive device? No, go ahead. No, he says it was like it's supposed to be.
He
like
doesn't know it at the time.
Immunization.
Yeah.
And he just willingly accepts this guy pulling these big fuck off gun needles.
Yeah.
Straight into his throat. And the second he does it, he goes, "Tell him."
Yeah.
And as a kid, again, I'm thinking, what's going on? And the moment when he realizes is like, oh, I just fucked up.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. It's good. It's a really cool bit, and the guy that injects him as well has also been in The Fog.
Oh, right.
He was the kid that swiped the drink in the supermarket when it started to all go.
See, John Carpenter's one of those filmmakers that, as an actor, you feel, I'm in with him because I'm going to get a part no matter what.
He's even Deborah Hill kind of says like Carpenter's very good at recycling.
Yeah. I think that's
actors, storyline, music.
Maybe that's where Tarantino got it from. The way we talked about how much Tarantino is influenced by it.
Absolutely.
He does it a lot too.
So he's not that happy about it, obviously, being injected and told he's got.
Well, again, for somebody who's obviously been a survivalist for so long and just relies on himself, it was kind of unless maybe it's a standard army procedure, and so he blanked it.
Yeah.
Because it's just a stupid idea for somebody who's that guarded. You do not let somebody inject you without at least questioning what the fuck are you doing.
And then he says, he does say to Hawk, "When I get back, I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
Which is a good response. And that's something I wanted to pick up as well. Something I noticed, and I think again it was mentioned that Pliskin is a very good observer of people, and he will ask specific questions to get a bit of background to find out a bit about them. So a lot of the time when he's asking stuff, he kind of gets a bit of a background to who they are, and that's how he makes his judgments of whether they're
worth saving or not.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So maybe rewatch that and with that in mind, because a lot of the questions he say are
that's interesting.
Are to do that. Anyway, so then Snake has to then fly into into Manhattan Island on top of the World Trade Center. He does so, but it stops just right on the very edge of the building.
So they put him in a glider.
Yeah, it's a glider.
See, you can't hear it, and it's interesting for me. There's like a glider's not sexy.
No,
but it made sense.
Yeah,
tactically that's how you get in without people knowing who you are.
Yep.
But they did it well because the World Trade Center is not a runway.
No.
And it is quite tense when he lands in. But also the computer graphic stuff is really brilliant.
Yes.
Because it's actual buildings they've painted with fluoro lines, because CGI didn't exist back then.
No.
Certainly the budget they had.
That's right.
And it looks great.
Yeah, it's all
hand-drawn animation.
That's the thing. Those kind of effects don't date the way that CG does.
Yeah, because it's a camera going through a city. It's fantastic.
Yeah. No, really, really good. He basically kind of gets out of the glider, hot wires the elevator, and descends. I've written here descends into hell. Essentially, it's this is it. Going into
going to the first level.
Yeah, your first game level.
Game level 1.
When he gets down to the bottom, he picks up the president's tracking device, which leads him to an abandoned theatre hall.
That's
right. Inside, he discovers there's an amateur production being performed. We see an elated cabbie watching the show played by he though does get distracted when he sees Snake appear and walk past him, and goes after him. And then we get the infamous continuing lines, a bit like "Wanna Smoke," where somebody has to say, "I thought you were dead."
Yeah, so yeah.
First,
it's right up there with "I thought you were taller." Yeah.
yeah.
I get that a lot.
Then the Snake kind of basically follows this tracker which leads him underground. There are a bunch of guys who are disrobing a woman and kind of getting...
Yeah, that stuck with me when I was a kid.
There was a kid too. This is like what?
She kind of pushed her around. She's almost like a...
It's not like a full-on rape or anything.
No.
But she's out of it, so it's technically... Well, it is, but it's like, as a kid, it's like, what's going on?
Yeah. I think, Carpenter said something in the commentary of this saying, that the actress asked for it not to be shown or not to be included, and he just went or something like, does he have to rip my clothes off? I think it was, and he was like, yeah, he does. And it's like, but there's a bit where what I find interesting more so is Kurt's or Snake's reaction to it is that it's just like it's like a beat and he moves on.
Yeah, to him
it's like
not part of his mission.
No, and it's just like, oh, okay, and it's almost though as that's expected.
Well, there's part of this dystopian future. Which is, I mean, another film for me that comes out that's very similar is 1984.
Yes.
And the kids rape the teacher's wife and that's quite a brutal thing.
Yeah.
And you don't see that in sort of PC sort of world today, but back then, sex and rape and
that's
a bit more carefree. Bikers is also a lot of bikers and shit in films about this era did a lot of raping.
They did, didn't they?
They did. Mad Max does in it. It happens.
Yeah.
They rape men in that one too.
They did.
Mad Max 2, there's one where they attack a couple, but they don't rape the woman, they rape the man. And so he runs across a field with no pants. And you're like, what?
That's just George Miller's twisted.
But there's a lot of and it's alarmingly casual, I guess. But yeah, as you say with Snake, he's not. No,
it doesn't blink. So he moves on through this kind of underground basement, and he then comes to this old guy who's by a campfire. I'm sure it's the same dude that's in The Wedding Singer, who's the drunk dude in the bar. I just mean to look that up. Anyway, he's kind of there, kind of distracts him, and his mates try to ambush Snake.
He kicks ass.
But this is the first time we can see him get physical and beat people up. So I do want to add at this point too is he's pretty much gone in there with no weapons.
Well, he's got the Mac 10, hasn't he?
He's got the Mac 10. Does he have it at that point, or did he pick it up?
No, the Mac 10 was part of his gear, because as a kid I saw, that's a Mac 10, that's a 357 Magnum. So he's got the revolver that never runs out of bullets.
Yeah. I just didn't know if he had it at that point. Oh, yes, he does have it.
The Mac 10 was the big cool sidearm.
But that's kind of it. Like he's got nothing else on it.
No knives or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
Which, you normally kind of in these days you'd have to see them kind of armed to the teeth.
Yeah.
But I think this the reason why that's important and why I'm saying that is because you actually kind of seeing him stripped to the bare minimum. It's survival. He has to survive in this jungle.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
And he does so really well in this instance here.
So he kicks ass.
Kicks ass.
He says to the guy, "Mr. President," and the guy turns around and says, "Oh, the president." And it's not the president.
Yeah, that's right. So he kind of meets this guy, gets to this guy. There's a guy being beaten up. So he beats that guy up, but he's presuming the guy that's being beaten up is the president, and it's not. Yeah. It's the tramp from Back to the Future.
Oh.
What, Biff?
Biff.
It's Biff.
No,
Biff Tannen.
not Biff. It's I've forgotten the guy's name, but the guy that sleeps on the
Red.
on the bench.
That's all he plays is bums.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got the tracking device.
He's got the tracking device on him, which
he says, I knew if I had this, I'd be the president.
Yeah, and apparently he was meant to sing a certain song in that, and he ended up singing a different one, and Carpenter went, whatever.
Yeah, there's a producer who goes,
because apparently he didn't.
They've got to clear that.
Yeah, but apparently it's he didn't know the words to whatever the one was.
Learn your lines.
Yeah.
Learn your lines, kids.
You had one job.
Learn your lines, kids. Seriously.
So at this point, you kind of think, well, what does he do now? He's literally got to look for a needle in a haystack because there's no way of tracking him. So he goes back out onto the streets, and there's a balding guy that starts hitting pipes, and a group of street thugs start piling out of nowhere, like out of manhole covers and
yes, because it's a certain time that they come out at night.
That's it. And he ducks out. He basically Snake ducks into a store. There's a woman there who is simply billed as "girl in chock full of nuts."
Yes, because it's a shop, isn't it? Chock full of nuts.
Yeah, the store. But
and you get the impression from her that she's been called out of curfew, effectively. Cause it's not her territory.
No,
and you're not supposed to be there beyond a certain time. She's been called out, so she's hiding. She's laying low for the night.
That's it. And then suddenly, there's a bit of kind of a romantic kind of.
It's his wife in real life.
Yeah. Was his ex-wife?
Yeah. But she
was his wife at the time. They don't actually kiss.
Oh, she tries to seduce him or something.
Yeah, there's a bit of sexual interplay between the two, and then they hear a ruckus and she gets pulled through the floorboards.
Yeah, this was quite alarming as a kid.
Yeah.
And also aliens when gets pulled down. Yeah, and so she tries to, and Snake tried to save her for at least a second.
Yeah, he does.
Oh no, she's fucked.
Yeah.
And of course he's about to get attacked by like 1,000 guys. He runs around the building.
Yeah. And
to get out at one point, this is the cool iconic moment for me, is when he shoots a hole through the wall.
Yeah.
And the flame that comes out of the Mac 10 silencer is really cool. And it looks really awesome, and that was cool.
Yeah, you're right. So there's this whole sequence where he basically has to make a getaway through basically.
Yeah, it's his MacGyver moment.
Yeah.
Smashing windows,
shooting through the wall,
climbing out, going up fire escape, going back in again.
Goes back in again, goes up, doesn't go down.
No.
Goes up, goes back inside the house.
That's it.
Shoots through the wall, jumps out through another window.
Yeah.
Awesome. Goes down, climbs up the wall.
And then climbs over the wall, and he loses his walkie-talkie in the process.
Which seemed really fragile.
Yeah. God damn
it literally smashes to pieces.
It does.
After dropping it. Anyway.
So what I want to say about that was all shot. That part was all shot in LA.
Okay.
Not in St. Louis in the buildings before. When he gets back over the wall, that's back in St. Louis again. And it was a set. And something that was noted is that I think it was shot out in the desert. That's where they made the set. So like if they were to pan the camera slightly to the left, they would basically joke saying you'd see a cactus because it was just like literally in the middle of nowhere.
Filmmaking, I love it.
Yeah. So basically he gets away, and then at that point Cabby turns up in the cab. Snake climbs in, and then the cabbie chucks a Molotov out the window and then drives off.
It's just the way he talks. Go, hey, you shouldn't be caught out here. I wouldn't be out here myself. As he's lighting this Molotov, he just throws it through the roof as if it's something he does every second day of the week. I love it.
Again, I think Kurt Russell said something about how he found that character really interesting because there's no way you'd want to kill him. He's just got this kind of really happy-go-lucky demeanour, and and yet he must be able to survive in this kind of.
He's been there. He says, "I've been here 30 years." So he's been there before New York became.
I almost get the feeling like he enjoys it. Like he wouldn't want it any other way.
No, that's right. That's right.
It's all he knows.
We do find out at this point. We're first informed about a character called the Duke.
Yes.
The Duke of New York. And he's apparently got the president. And so Snake wants to meet him. So then Snake takes him to the old library.
That's right.
And at this point, he does a quick time check. He's got 17 hours left. A woman answers the door, and it's Maggie. Adrian Bobo.
Yay! Looking good here.
Looking good here, and even Kurt Russell was saying how good she looks. It's like and he even emphasises how what we've been saying. She was like the pin-up for teens at the time,
really?
And at this time was married to John Carpenter as well. And they're there basically because they need to meet this guy called Brain.
Good name.
It's used in Thunderbirds. It's clear that they know when they finally get in there and they meet Brain, and it's clear that Snake and Brain know each other. There's a bit of a history there, and it alludes to Brain running out. Skipping out on him, yeah, exactly.
Harry Dean Stanton.
They set off. The four of them then set off to retrieve the president At which point we hear the Duke's car engines roaring. Cabby does a run and gets in his car and drives off. The other three are standing there for a bit, and then Brain and May kind of sneak off. There's a beat where Snake considers staying. He's just staring down the street as if like, I don't give a shit. And then he's like, I better go. And then ducks out. But funny, like the Duke's car rolls up and it's decked out with the chandeliers on the hood and a disco ball hanging from the rear view window. Rear view window hanging from the rear view mirror. And then Snake rocks up on to one of the cars, knocks the driver out before stealing the car and driving off with Brain and Maggie and making a getaway. Brain leads Snake down Broadway, where there are, which is a bit of a forbidden territory. There's rows of dismembered heads on spikes, and people start pelting the car with shit as they drive past. They reach a blockade, and he just smashes his way through in reverse to escape. What happens then? Eventually, they reach a train station, which is the Duke's lair, and it's a place where the president is being held, specifically on the train. Snake kills a couple of guys, unstraps the president, who is strapped to the chair. As they make good their escape, Snake is then rumbled and outnumbered and surrounded, essentially. The Duke arrives on the scene and seems suspicious of Brain. He makes out that he had no choice but to be led by Snake. There's a bit there where so Brain and Maggie are standing next to the train, and then we get the Frank Doubleday character again, the Romero guy with the where he kind of swings out between the. Oh yeah. There's something that Kurt Russell again said in the commentary, which I missed in the performance, that he said that's such a great moment. So he kind of swings down and he does this kind of look with his hand. He then looks to his left at Adrienne Barbeau, who's all cleavage at this point. He looks down at her cleavage, then looks back up, and then he rips his shirt open like that, and then starts to strut down like that to kind of make out that she's not the only one that can bear their chest. It's like, but when you rewatch it, you're like, genius performance. Like it's just something that you wouldn't pick it up, but unique performance. Anyway. So
it strikes me, we got a friend called Richard Lovegrove who's an actor. It sounds like something he would.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. Yeah,
it's just
very
his
similar.
own thought process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Probably doesn't even bother telling the director.
It just does it. So Snake's surrounded, and the Duke basically kind of knocks him down to the floor, knocks him out. We then go to a different location. It's a desolate kind of again abandoned building essentially. Snake wakes up. We're told there's 12 hours left on the clock as well, and Snake wakes up. There are arrows pointed at him. We then see the president, who's being forced against a wall, and the Duke is taking pot shots at him
with a gun.
With the
Mac-10.
And
he says, "Who am I?"
Yeah, he says, "Who are you? You're the Duke.
You're
A number one."
Yeah.
Brain pleads with Duke not to kill Snake at this point as well. Because he's saying he could be important too. So you're kind of wondering, like, Brain's quite clever in this film. He knows how to play sides a bit, but people know that about him too, but he's still kind of a bit of a weasel in a sense.
Yeah, weasel's probably the right word.
Able to kind of work his way through things a bit. The Duke takes a shot at the suitcase, which then flips the suitcase, which is strapped to the president's hand, and it bursts open, and Romero then kind of goes up, picks up the recorder, and then pops it in his pocket. Yeah. The president is then led away. Helicopters circle overhead again over Central Park, and we see a group of prisoners wave them down before running off, and then the combat soldiers discover the suitcase sitting there. Yeah. Brain figures out that the glider must be located on top of the World Trade Center at this point.
Yeah, it's the only place you could land.
Yes.
That's how smart Brain is.
And in the suitcase, we're then again reinformed that it's like a plea for amnesty for the freedom of the president. The life clock is now measured at less than 2 hours, so we've jumped ahead quite significantly here. Snake is forced into a wrestling ring against a behemoth of a dude, I put here, an actual wrestler at the time.
Yes. He didn't know how to do screen fighting.
Who didn't know how to do screen fighting was actually hitting the shit out of Kurt Russell. And boy, did he know it. Apparently, he tapped him in the nuts as a bit of a, hey, you need to ease off a bit. Yeah. And even now, like he said, that's the most physical work I've ever done on a film set.
Yeah, well, he's well into it.
So, yeah, and the Duke...
Again, this is where the patch would have worked. If that guy was smart, he would attack Snake from the right side. Yeah, you can't see.
That's it. But we're dealing with a wrestler here.
Yes.
The Duke states that they will lead Snake out as they march to freedom with just his head. So it's kind of basically saying, he's going to die here, and we're going to walk out with his head and to freedom. Brain turns up to where the president's being held, claiming that he has cyanide capsules on him, as in the president does. Brain then stabs Romero, and Maggie shoots the 2 guards that are there, and they free the president.
Snake's pistol.
With Snake's pistol, that's right.
Which will never run out of ammo.
Doesn't ever run out of ammo. Snake.
Duke's other name in this is Chef, by the way.
Yeah, you're just doing a nod to South Park. Yeah. Is that the point where he goes, check out my chocolate salty balls? Yeah.
Hey kids!
Hey everybody, ever seen my balls?
Big and salty. So Snake sneezes. No, he doesn't. Snake. I can't say it. Snake sees the tracking beacon on this guy that's by the side of the wrestling ring.
Yeah,
that's his tracking beacon. As they fight, suddenly Snake clobbers the wrestler in the nuts and then over the head with a spike.
That was a really cool shot.
He then reaches out to the other guy and manages to activate the tracker.
That's right. And that's when...
Hawk and the guy suddenly go, what? He's alive. Told you my guy would be alive, or something like that. And then the word is out that Brain has taken the president, so they all kind of go on that, all the
hunt for the brain
gang go on the hunt for the brain.
That was the working title for the film.
It was Hunt for the Brain.
Hunt for Brain.
Snake gets to the World Trade Center and has to take the stairs.
That's something. He limps.
He's limping because he's been shot in the leg by an arrow in the earlier scene.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
I talk about the deleted scene earlier. The famous deleted scene
at the beginning.
At the beginning with the train.
Yeah, we will talk about that. Yeah, he reaches the top to find Brain under attack, and the glider is then cast over the edge of the building. They manage to all get back inside the lift and head for the car, but it's dead. And then the Duke turns up on the scene.
How did they expect to make the glider work? I don't know how gliders work, but was he just going to push it off the edge and then that was going to fly up? Yeah,
they were just kind of using it that was the only way to do it. And again, that's why it was high up. There's a lot of stuff that physically wouldn't work, but the idea is that it would catch the wind drift, and that's how they would just float themselves
thermals,
out.
Man, it's all about thermals.
Gliding is a thing.
It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
And people do like long distance gliding, and they're high.
It's safe, but I don't know.
My mum's
safe-ish.
My mum's been trained to fly a glider.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did she ever do it with you?
On top of the World Trade Center.
Nice.
It was good. No, she didn't. No. Snake gets to... sorry, no, we've done a bit. So Duke's turned up on the scene. Snake pulls a gun and fires it at some gas cylinders or something, which provide cover for their escape.
Oh, that's right, his pistol. It made a weird noise. It didn't make a bang noise. It was like...
Yeah, there was some odd sound effects actually in this one with the gun shooting, I thought, which made me go, Anyway, at this point, Cabby then turns up, as he does, and they climb into the cab and drive across the bridge. So this is what they're going to use their escape.
I want to listen to the cassette. He does. Pulls out a cassette which happens to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Plays it and some sort of random dialogue said that's the cassette.
Yeah, to prove that it's that. Yeah. And you're saying that for a reason, I know. He also... it has the tape on him, which, again... okay, so the reason Cabby has the tape is because he exchanged it for something with the Romero guy.
Is that... I couldn't remember how that went down.
It was the wig, or was it? Or was it the hat?
I don't know.
It's his hat, the Cabby's hat, I think.
They wanted that.
So he exchanged it for
cassette.
For the cassette.
You think, though, if you want entertainment in a place where you don't get any outside entertainment, you keep a cassette or a book or...
Yeah.
Because it's recording, it could be kind of cool.
But he can kind of pull off a cab hat.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
We're told here it's 23 minutes left on the clock. They have a map on them detailing where the mines are hidden on the bridge, and Brain tells Snake where to avoid them.
All the bridges are mine, that's how you can escape.
That's right. Yeah. And somehow Brain knows where these are.
So why didn't he use it?
He's the brain.
Yeah. Oh, he probably didn't notice you'll get shot.
The Duke is driving in pursuit behind them as well, just to add. At which point the cab drives over one of these bombs and it rips in two, and it kills Cabby.
That's a cool effect.
As they run, Brain tells them to stay to the left, but he's also killed by another mine.
So they just
two
conveniently forget that Brain actually has a map and they just keep running. So that was a stupid thing to do. And but if Brain's map is wrong, but how do they know that Brain's map was wrong?
I know.
But Brain then dies, and then Adrian Barbeau's like, Brain.
She's
she says bone, okay?
Bone?
And she won't move.
Bone.
No, Maggie's dumbstruck here, yeah. So she stays by Brain's side and shoots at the approaching car driven by the Duke, which plows her down and kills her. There's a bit here where...
Damn shame.
Damn shame. Damn shame. Interestingly, there's a cutaway shot of her lying on the floor in a pool of blood. That shot was done after the fact because in screening people weren't actually aware that Maggie was dead.
Right.
Even though she gets pretty fucking hit. So they had to emphasise the point. And apparently they did it and they shot it in John Carpenter's garage. That one shot.
Really?
Yeah. Which is great. And then, so she's killed too. So now we're just down to Snake and the President running away. And the Duke is now running on foot because he's smashed his car. So it becomes a chase on foot. The guards set up a rope to help President and Duke get over the wall. The President is winched up first. There's 1 minute left on the clock, and the Duke opens fire with his gun. A fight breaks out between him and Snake as he tries to reach safety. The winch is stopped by somebody. Then we pan up the bridge and we see the President, who opens fire on the Duke, going, "You're the Duke, #1." Yeah, and going a bit nuts. And John Carpenter revealed in the commentary that apparently Donald Pleasance was a POW in the war and was tortured.
Oh, no way.
And he said he kind of...
Spotted some shit.
Yeah, that moment was him just kind of opening up and just going a bit nuts, which kind of puts a whole perspective on that performance.
Yeah, shit.
And so anyway, it's revealed that it was the President that stopped the winch, and he winches Snake up and to safety. On the other side, Snake goes for the antidote, but not without handing the tape over first. He watches the clock count down after he's given the antidote and gets to 0, and he's clear.
So is that X-rays that kills the capsules, which are now permanently lodged inside his...
Yeah, I don't know, it's a bit...
Yeah, unless he passes them through his body at some point. I don't know. Why did the President stop
outside of the escape hatch for the Air Force One?
Yeah. But why did the President stop the winch? I guess maybe he wanted to make Duke come to Snake, but it was sort of a dick move when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, he's a bit of a dick, the character is a bit of a dick.
But then he lets him back up again.
Yeah. You're joking. Yeah. So then we cut to the President, who's being made up for a live announcement. Snake approaches him, and this is another example where he then quizzes him because he wants to get a bit of background on him. And he asks basically what he thought of those who lost their lives in order to save him, and he says he thanks them, but he seems really cordial. And,
yeah, of course I get my thanks. Yes,
but... So then Snake kind of has him sus at this point.
Yeah.
He walks away and is greeted by Hawk, who offers him a deal to partner up with him. At which point he calls him Pliskin, and Snake says the name's Snake. Right, yeah. So the whole time he keeps calling him Snake and he says the name's Pliskin. Oh no, it's the other way around. He keeps calling him Snake and he says the name's Pliskin. And anyway, whatever way it is, he contradicts him. And then we cut to the President's address to the summit and plays the tape. Instead of the plans, on comes one of Cabby's jazz tapes.
The big band.
Swing band.
Classic Cabby.
And we then see her Snake walk off with the real tape and pull it apart, and we fade to black. Close credits.
This is your cue.
Yeah. So looking at our clock, we're already 50 minutes into a conversation on this one. So that is an indicator of something, to me, would suggest that this has a resonating and lasting effect on us. Do you remember what your first reactions were when you first saw it?
Holy shit, this is really cool.
Yeah.
I was finally old enough to see it.
I
saw it a couple of years after it first came out, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing! It's cool, it's gritty, it's visceral.
Yeah.
It's scary. Has a cool ending, twist ending.
Yeah.
It's believable in the sense that... John Carpenter said it was like, it's believable in the sense that if you... Not so much the concept of turning New York into a prison, but if you wanted to, it'd be very easy to do.
Yeah.
And that was like, really cool. And again, it's a mythological place.
Yeah.
This is what gangs are like. They're multiracial.
I think it was that punk. I got that punk vibe from a lot of it.
Yeah.
The punk rock. They all seemed like almost like if you've read the Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller graphic novel, like the kind of the street gangs you see in that.
Yeah.
It's kind of represented in this.
But then the Ramiro guy is so unhinged, so he represents that, and so he's believable. the spikes and the bat. Like, it wasn't just having bats, but he had nails in it, which I've never seen before. That's fucking scary.
Yeah.
And the fight is real. Like, he's really wailing in the
Yeah.
And everybody's screaming for blood. It's
It's still, and it still stands up to today.
That's why to me it's the beginning of the modern era for me.
Yeah.
Because the others do date in certain ways, but this is like, apart from the fact that it's clearly shot in the 80s, but the lenses because they use fast lenses too, so it's a lot of natural lighting. So it suddenly is a different look than he's had before. He's used Steadicam in Halloween, but he's used it brilliantly here.
Yeah.
So you find Snake down.
We are getting a lot of these tracking shots, as you were saying, there, and Ben alluded to in the last conversation.
He always does inject them into it. Like there are scattered like throughout his movies. Like even up until now, the ones we've talked about, they're just getting more ambitious as he's going along. But on the whole, like the genre itself, it's not. I don't think it's. I mean, I guess is this one sci-fi? Would you call this one sci-fi?
It leans more to sci-fi,
yeah. But it's definitely more action-packed than his previous films, I think.
Yeah.
And there's also there are scenes in this that could be in a zombie film as well.
Yeah.
Just the figures in the dark. I mean, that's the thing. Even Assault on Precinct 13 had that vibe at times when they were obviously creeping in the shadows. And
I think there's an obvious nod there in the fact that he's named one of the characters Romero to the Walking
absolutely.
The Dead movies. So it's it goes without saying that there's all those kind of instances, like you're saying, you can easily see like a horde of zombies coming around the corner, or it's got that kind of.
And that's what makes them so scary as well. They come up through the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
Through the door. No, floor's easy. Come on, let's go. I was going to insert a Left 4 Dead gag there. How Paul shoots in Left 4 Dead.
Yeah,
he shoots ceilings.
That's how you get through the floor. Through the floor.
If you play Left 4 Dead with Paul, he'll waste 360 bullets in the ceiling.
Yeah. Don't like ceilings. Don't trust them.
Ever.
Whilst you're getting hit by a horde of zombies.
Yeah.
What a noob. The question is, when is Hollywood going to remake this film?
It's been
it'll be with all women, and people are going to have a real problem with it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Who would be a female Snake Plissken?
Snake.
Who's a badder?
Viper Plissken.
Who's badass enough?
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
To be Kurt's interpretation of Clint.
Yeah. I don't expect you to answer that right now. I'm just throwing it out.
Too late on there.
We're just half an hour of silence while we think.
Well, like they pick, and we'll take a photo while we're pausing. But there's a lot of male actors that have been touted around. Like Chris Hemsworth has also been recently touted in there as well. And
honestly, they're thinking of doing a remake.
The Rock was
I think
somebody.
It's inevitable. The Rock is in everything. He doesn't need to be in nothing.
So the thing is,
Jason Statham and
Statham possibly.
There's another Brit that was in there that made me think that was more believable. Oh, Tom Hardy.
Fucking hell, Tom Hardy.
Made me think
he mumbles too much.
Yeah.
I like this.
But there's not much dialogue for him to talk in.
I prefer to see the other Mad Max, so Furiosa. Charlize Theron obviously was a bit of a badass in Fury Road. Like I think she could pull it off if they were to go.
That's true. That's true.
Like you got so much hate for that, but I think it'd be so cool.
She'd
be great.
She copped hate for it.
No, if you make fucking Snake Plissken a chick all black, you're gonna cop shit for it.
Yeah, sure. It's a bold choice. I think they just put the eye patch on the other side of it. that's the only difference.
It's on both sides.
No, this movie's completely different because it's on the other side.
Furiosa, it's cool. Because the thing is, like, with the Terminator Genesis, and when they made Kyle into that Jai Courtney, and he's huge, and Kyle's never that for me.
No.
Kyle was the Snake is a skinny guy. You got the impression he was tough, but he's smart. And Kyle was a survivor.
Yeah.
He's not a beefy dude, so yeah.
No, that was the thing. And against Kurt, apparently he realised he had 4 months. When he found out he had the role, he found out that he had 4 months before filming began, and he was like, "I need to get into shape in order to do this." And he's not huge. He's not a huge dude.
He's wiry.
But you can see. Well, that's the thing. He said he needs to be able to move. So he just spent the 4 months trying to train up for it.
But I find Snake, we're going to talk about the characters. Yeah, that was the first time I'd seen Kurt Russell. Yeah. I'd seen some of these Disney films as a kid. Yeah. Did not connect that was the same guy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the characters of the piece. Obviously, Kurt Russell is the
Titular.
Yeah, of Snake Plissken.
Tits.
Got distracted by Adrian Barbeau. So yeah, as you rightly said, he was up to that point.
Adrian Brody,
was
did he play him?
No.
No one could pull off that nose. No one.
King Kong was a career killer. Go on.
No, I don't think so. He's a good. Don't get me wrong. He's a good actor in places, but he's not action material. And of which Predators proved that, I think.
Yes.
Disney kid star he's basically was Kurt Russell. He'd go on to star in numerous roles. This would be his first collaboration with Carpenter. His first collaboration with Carpenter was actually the TV movie Elvis, playing again the title of the character.
I still need to watch that.
But this is the first time he broke out of Disney mold.
This is the thing, right? This is the point where, even then, Kurt says I have a lot to thank John Carpenter for, because from that point on, after playing Snake, his career completely changed.
Yeah, cool.
And he said, and it's because you had the belief that I could pull this character off. And John basically said, well, if you can pull off playing Elvis Presley, I thought you could pull off playing Snake Plissken. You've obviously got.
He's an impressive guy.
Yeah.
He's an ex-baseballer, so he's a hell of an athlete.
Yes.
I think he's one of those actors he can direct.
Yes.
He did that for Tombstone. He basically directed it.
Yeah.
That's got a hell of a behind-the-scenes story to it.
I really enjoyed Tombstone. But anyway, I think he's good. Like in Snake, he was, and again, because I had no baggage with him, I completely believed that's what he was like.
Yeah.
Not knowing that he's not that at all. So,
He's basically said, even now, this character was the best character he's ever played in his career.
Yeah.
And I think, I've got it in my notes.
The most iconic.
Well, and he said, he said it's ultimately he's my favourite character because he's the most complex character he's played.
It was the classic anti-hero.
Yeah.
He's complex, but also it's an easy character to define, and obviously the look of him is so simple as well. Like he's an archetype that's, I mean the Eastwood thing. I mean it's unmistakable.
Yeah.
That's a reference.
Yeah.
But the look is also a big part of his character. Once you see him with the tattoo.
Very easy to dress up as Snake Plissken at a costume party.
That's right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's very simple in the costumes in this, but it all kind of leans to that.
The world
that's been created within it. So Kurt was just to list off these some of his credits, because he would kind of team up with Carpenter again another 3 times in The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, and Escape from LA. And so
Big Trouble in Little China is a big departure from the characters he played in John Carpenter movies, because he's got a comedy there, and he does that really well too.
Do you know there's I don't know if you're aware that there's a crossover comic that's coming out in October between Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China, where Jake Burton and Snake Plissken meet.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Like a 6-part mini comic series. But you're right. There's a lot of comedy that comes through in that particular movie. He was also comedy is something that he's been attached. He was in Overboard, which was a comedy. Tequila Sunrise isn't so much of a comedy. Tango and Cash may as well have been a comedy.
It was a buddy cop comedy.
Tombstone, which you mentioned, he was like Stargate, but then more recently like Death Proof and Furious 7.
Yes, and he also was in that Poseidon Adventure remake.
Yes.
Where he drowns.
Oh my god!
Spoilers! Very real.
Roll it out.
I thought that was a realistic death, that one.
Yeah, it was. The way he drowned was good.
The is he the main character in it?
No, well, because it's an ensemble piece. But he's singing as his daughter, and they're estranged.
Oh, okay. I'm just know the Gene Hackman version.
Yeah, in the sense that was he the Jim Hackman character? No, Jim Hackman was a fallen priest. He's they actually have the same characters, but he sings his daughter and him estranged right to the point where he's basically going to sacrifice himself for her, and he drowns to save her.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay. But look, nowadays, like he's so embedded in the business. Like you say, he's got a producer hats on, director hats on.
He's coming. I think he's coming back at the moment in a big way.
Yeah.
Like there was a period there where he was a little bit quiet on the movie front, but people have started using him again.
Do you think that was because of Death Proof?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And in Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
Glorious beard.
He's
become.
I'm trying to get there.
Yeah. And Bone Tomahawk as well. I don't know if you've seen Bone Tomahawk.
So good.
He is sort of doing his Western stuff. Like that he's in that mode right now. But he's got a few things in the pipeline, which.
Okay. Cool.
There's he's
about 70 now.
Oh, he couldn't be that old.
No. Is he?
He was about 30 odd during when he did this.
Let's say he's in his mid-60s.
Yeah.
Which is not that far from 70. But when you say 70, it's just no.
Tom Cruise. There's an interesting thing too, but back to the character.
Yeah, go on,
deleted
please.
scene, which is the whole 10-minute sequence.
Yeah, good moment.
Which starts off at the beginning of the film. Where
Yep.
The little robot. It's in a bank, and he robs a bank.
Yeah.
And he has a partner called Tanner.
Yep.
And his relationship with Tanner in just a few short lines, which was "I trust you."
Yeah.
Was interesting.
Yes.
Because basically what it is, they go on a train that goes from Florida to another city. It's an underground train.
Yeah, that's right.
And he basically does all the heavy lifting. He robs the bank. Tanner meets him.
Yeah.
And he pulls out this bag of $1 billion, which is representing credit cards.
Credit cards, yeah, little plastic chips.
I don't think I know how credit cards work, but anyway. But he says, "Do you want to count this?" And he says, "I trust you." And he falls asleep right in front of him.
Yeah.
And Tanner, I thought was going to rip him off. But
Yeah.
You don't find out because they get out of the train and they get ambushed. Tanner gets shot, and he runs away, and he comes back for him.
Yes.
And that was interesting because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, there's somebody in his life he trusts and would come back for.
Yes. Well, I know, and that's the thing too, because and I don't know if you're familiar with the scene that we're talking about, Ben, but originally, like this was at the very beginning of the movie before any of the credits rolled.
Yeah.
We see this, and it was shot, and
it's on YouTube.
and it's on.
Is it supposedly like? Are we glad that it's not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they dropped it. They showed it, and audiences were confused. They were like, "What's going on? I don't get it." And so they completely got rid of that, and it makes much more sense of the movie having removed it.
Yeah.
The reason why Ant brings it up, not only because of its removal, but it does offer insights into Snake's character, which poses questions, i.e. the trust thing. Because the way we see it, he's a lone wolf, and he doesn't trust anyone. He's suspicious of everyone.
Yeah.
And yet this defies that.
Yeah,
in this
exactly.
instance.
That's why to me it was like, oh, that's a different.
Yeah.
It's not what you want, though, is it? That's not the way that people want to.
No, that's not how it's
right.
portrayed as.
And in fact, like, you could argue that the only person he has a vested interest in, or at least cares about in the movie, is Maggie, because there is a moment where she's choosing to stay by Brain's side, and he's wanting her to come with her. He's like, and because of the way she is and the way she looks, he piques his interest.
His instinct would be to not let the girl die.
Yeah. But he's also wants to get the fuck out of there, so he goes. Yeah. But like, there is a moment there between the two of them. So. But all in all, like, he really doesn't. He goes to the beat of his own drum.
He does. Also, I don't think he's not a cold cocaine killer. He doesn't.
No.
If it's death's unnecessary, which to me, when I saw that scene, it was like, this is unnecessary.
Yeah.
He's dead. You can't do any more for him.
No.
But when he sees in her eyes that her life is ended effectively, he just throws her the gun and says, "Fine."
Yeah.
That was the other thing too about his hobble, because in that opening scene with Tanner, he hobbles, but Tanner's got a bigger limp. And so you got two characters who are limping through the train station.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is he got a limp? And why is the other guy? And Tanner, I figured maybe was a cripple. But why is he got a limp? And then
it's like, why? Yeah, it's like, why are you doing it? Why are you limping? Well, you were limping.
That was the thing we were doing. At one point, they run across the train station. One's got a limp and the other one's got a worse limp. I'm like, is this?
You remind me of I don't know why I'm thinking of Eddie Izzard, and he's talking about the posing for the Last Supper portrait. As if Leonardo da Vinci was there at the time, and so Jesus is spreading out his arms, and he goes, "I'm going to do the big arms thing."
That's right.
And then everyone else goes, "Well, we'll all do it." And he goes, "We'll look like a squadron of planes." Like, I'll do the big arms thing. You all guys just look around and go, "Isn't he interesting?"
I love that.
Isn't it? Isn't that a moment like that though, like, where he's going, "Well, Kurt's limping, right?
I thought
I'm going to limp too." I don't know.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Okay, so
apparently Hugh Laurie, because he characters limped in House, he developed a real life limp.
Oh.
I'm not surprised.
Psychosomatic.
Somatic. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word.
Didn't Pacino almost go blind on Scent of a Woman?
Did he?
Yeah, because he was doing the
wasn't
cross-eyed.
looking at his eyes?
He was doing the. You can make yourself sort of go out of focus.
Yeah, right.
But at least he's not a snitch.
Wah.
Wah.
Wah. Wah. We'll
Anyway.
now be doing Pacino impressions for the next half an hour.
Funny guy.
What do you got? What do you got?
Hi, how about
Oh, thank me. Okay,
I have
let's
this
let's look at the other
All these
actors.
people.
Let's look at the other actors. Okay, Lee Van
It's a
Cleef.
game of inches.
Lee Van Cleef is in there playing
How
Hawk.
funny is this guy?
Lee Van Cleef.
Yeah.
He was known for
Love
his Western roles,
Love
such as
him.
High Noon and Colonel Douglas Mortimer in For a Few Dollars More. And
They don't make them
the
like
Ugly.
that anymore, do
So
they? They
great
don't make
movies.
faces like that anymore.
He was the bad guy in one and the good guy in the other, and he's both great. I love that shit.
He's awesome. Such a good.
He's good.
And like epitomizes westerns. Now, the reason why, and not just to move him slightly to one side, the reason why this is such great casting in this, it also shows Carpenter's love for westerns.
Yeah.
And this is a modern western. It's a modern western storytale that we're kind of essentially seeing. Massive nod to that. So the fact that then we bring someone like Lee Van Cleef in there to provide the menace and gravitas to make it grounds the unbelievability of this movie to make it believable.
The thing I liked about him too is that he had, when he was a kid, he has a bracelet which is a studded bracelet.
Yes.
And he's a man of authority.
Yes.
But he's punk.
And he's got an earring.
He's got an earring too.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like that's how far the world had shifted.
Yes.
Like conservative just doesn't exist.
Yeah,
conservative is an earring and a bracelet button.
Yeah.
Wild is for that, and I just loved it. It was just a little touch that made me go, okay, this isn't a world that's quite scary to be in.
There's that's right. And there is something interesting though in his performance. Like I think John Carpenter reveals that there was one scene that he struggled with, which was the walking down the corridor and talking to Kurt Russell, because he was from the sort of background where you walk into shot, you say your lines, you walk in, and I say struggle. I don't know if he struggled. He just openly admitted that
that's not filmmaking to him, because the cameras couldn't do
because it was different to him. So it was a sign of how things had moved from filming techniques through his career. That was something that he and he got basically thrown into the midst because somebody might have been Deborah Hill had said he hasn't done anything for a while.
Casting director apparently.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
And they got him.
Yeah.
They didn't think they'd get him. Like. And just on the Snake Plissken character, I think Charles Bronson was bandied around as a potential to play that role as well.
The classic sort of
which again arcs back to Sergio Leone with the Once Upon a Time Western stuff. So again, nods to the Western stuff. What do we think of Lee's performance as Hawk in this?
He's great. He's a dick. He's a dick. He's a douche. He's in control.
Oh, there's so many great kind of.
He's a manipulator.
Yeah.
Again, for me, I love the fact that he was ex-punk.
Yeah.
He's got an earring and a break. I love that.
Yeah, he's a great foil.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah, you do get the thing that a Snake Plissken him series would be very believable if they went to series.
Yeah.
Are we talking long form now?
Long form series. They pitched for it.
Right.
Escape from New York TV series, I think.
Did they? Okay.
Didn't go anywhere. Okay, so then we get Borgnine playing Cabby.
Yeah, he's cool.
We've mentioned him before in our Wes Craven discussions on Deadly Blessings.
He's goofy, but again, it's a good counterpoint to all the seriousness and darkness is going on.
That's right. Exactly. And there's an interesting thing about his character because he's the character that connects the dots, he's the one that introduces the characters to each other.
Yeah, he narrates it, he pushes it along.
Yeah,
he gets it to the next act.
That's right. And again, another nod to Western and the Wild Bunch, Sam Peckinpah kind of stuff. So it's an ongoing theme. But and again, like believable character. I do wonder if for someone as well known in the film biz, would you argue that his character is not as present in the movie, or is it just the right balance?
I think he serves his purpose. He has fun stuff to do. For me, the Molotov cocktail scene is brilliant.
Yeah.
The way he talks about it.
It sounds like he was more than happy to do that. Like not necessarily have the ego that would say my role should be expanded. And,
No, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so then we have Donald Pleasance playing the president.
Great.
Returns again to Carpenter after his role as Dr. Sam Loomis in Halloween. As mentioned, he would be in Halloween 2, 4, 5, and 6 playing that role. Team up again with John Carpenter for Prince of Darkness as well as a collaborative thing. Choice for him as president. I know, people thought that was.
I didn't think to see the British thing at all, but because to me he was that guy.
Yeah,
he's pompous and he's weak.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily know at the time that he was.
Same.
Yeah, so it wasn't a big deal. Looking back now, though, it does seem like a left of field choice.
Well,
I'm looking back at the movie Presidents in cinema history. It's they usually go for that
the strong leader type, statesman type.
More of the
presidents can be different types of
that's right.
people. So
Harrison Ford, Bill Pullman.
There's a bit of a difference there.
Can be F-15 pilots, yes.
I belong in the air.
I saw that again recently because it was on Fox. I belong in the air. What? Okay, the world's gone to shit. Why not? Let me fly.
It's fucking great in the new one. And spoilers, Independence Day Resurgence. There's a moment where he tries to give another speech, but then he's in an aircraft hangar. And like in the first movie, obviously all the pilots gather around. In this one, they just kind of look over and they just like listen to him for a bit, and then they just kind of like just lose interest like straight away.
Which, from the sound of things, a lot of people did with the movie itself.
Yeah. It'll be forgotten quite quickly. I think.
Okay, so and then we have Isaac Hayes cast as the Duke, which you mentioned, Chef, South Park, and obviously known for his music association as well.
Yes.
Is he a Scientologist? Was he a Scientologist?
Back then.
I don't know.
Was Scientology around back then?
I don't know.
80?
Scientology.
No, yeah, it's been around. I mean, Hubbard was around in like.
But had Hubbard got his hooks into Hollywood as much as he has now back then? Or was he still laying the groundwork? You're not going to be a
But it is disappointing when you hear that someone is a Scientologist and you're like,
I don't like you.
It's not to disparage Scientology to any of our Mexican listeners who are Scientologists.
That how you breed hate. Just saying.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Excluding.
I am gonna
do what Wally Elliott says and love. It's all about
Love, yeah. Right. That's right.
Yeah, I'm sure Sonny Kruger's a big listener of this podcast as well.
But like Isaac Hayes' roles prior to that, like few and far between, like being a lot of TV roles essentially.
Yeah.
He amongst his film appearances, I wrote down he played a sneeze in Robin Hood, Men in Tights. I nearly said Prince of Thieves.
Sneeze.
Yeah, a sneeze. And Angel to Prey in It Could Happen to You. And it was in Oblivion and its sequel, but there's not really a lot. I mean, he's known mainly for his music.
Yeah.
But so for me, this is probably the most iconic role.
He's in.
He had,
outside of Chef.
Yeah.
But in terms of physically him on screen,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think you can tell he's enjoying it.
He does a twitch, and apparently, like he only does that when he sees Snake or thinks of Snake. He does that twitch with his eye.
Method, man.
Yeah,
method,
which is interesting. Was he a believable kind of head honcho?
Yeah, the interesting thing about that sort of character who's got to be the kingpin of a gang the size of a city, you have to have something going on.
Yeah.
Which is something it occurs to me when I think about it, I guess. To me, he's scary and believable, but...
When you weigh him up as the Duke of New York against Christopher Walken's King of New York, I don't know if you've seen that movie, but Christopher Walken, there's menace there. Is there menace to Duke?
There is, but I don't know if it's
enough.
Really better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's as memorable as I mean, certainly not as memorable as Snake, but I don't think he goes down in the rogues gallery.
No.
Great, really menacing alpha males.
Yeah.
We also had Harry Dean Stanton playing Brain. He would crop up in earlier on with like films like Cool Hand Luke as these extra kind of characters, and Kelly's Heroes, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, Godfather Part 2, which we all know you haven't seen, and Brett in Alien.
Brett in Alien!
The next one. And he also voiced Brett in an Alien kind of game that was released a couple of years ago as well.
Oh, yeah. I actually haven't played it yet.
And then, which is that good.
Yeah, well, I've got it, and a friend of mine ruined it on Facebook saying, shit, don't bother. Oh, okay.
As Ben has mentioned, like he's a method actor, and so like he's been in numerous things. Private Benjamin, Detective Rudolph Junkins in Christine, to team up with Carpenter again. Paris, Texas, which is such a huge film. Pretty in Pink.
Also, he's the security guard in Avengers.
He is.
He is.
You have a condition.
That's it. And he was in just to name some other stuff. Last Temptation of Christ, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, of which he's reprising that role for the new series.
I think everyone's in that series.
Yeah.
Is Carl
Ant's in it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Token Asian guy.
We've made a lot of progress since the 80s.
Yeah. It was in The Man Who Cried, and obviously Lynch Factor is a big thing. He was in The Straight Story in Inland Empire to kind of round it up. As I said, like all the lines he says are his lines.
But the thing I find about Brian is like he's got this whole he lives in a library. How does he get immunity?
Yeah.
He must do something regularly for Duke to have that sort of immunity. Is that, apart from being smart? I don't know.
I wonder if there is the smarts thing though. Like I think it's one of those things where you kind of need somebody with a bit of smarts to be able to.
Everyone that's there must have justified their purpose within the society. Like it's like the Mad Max thing. It's like they name all the characters after their area of expertise.
That's
like,
it.
But that's how
right.
how names generated.
Yeah.
Smith was blacksmith and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like I think Deborah Hill said that each character are archetypes of the types of people that would survive in a post-apocalyptic environment. So they were all taken from people. They go, well, that's the sort of person that would survive in this world. And so this is this kind of clever Weasley kind of guy who will survive in order to...
Imagine he does the power, I'm guessing. Like he's figured out a way to make power work.
Well, that's that too. Sorry, yeah. He does know that. He knows how to operate, because it's there's no electricity, so everything's and like he knows how to. I can't remember. There's a backstory there that he knows how to do some of that stuff.
Do you think the Carpenter, because the original Mad Max would have come out before this, right? That was
70.
Do you think that would have made it? I mean, it was a pretty big hit in most
States.
Regions. Yeah. I think Carpenter would have seen that and been maybe a little bit just
maybe.
in the way that the society has. Although that was probably more Mad Max 2 more than...
Mad Max 2 was 1. The more identifiable as to what the Mad Max... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, it really lent itself to that. Whereas the first Mad Max is very much a revenge road movie.
Yeah, and it's still only half...
The world is still...
Exactly.
There's still law that just have to wear leather jackets.
Whereas number 2 was full on,
That's
the
world's
gone to shit.
And 2 was 82, was that?
So probably around the same time.
Yeah, about the same time. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, because I think, like you said before, visually to me, it bodes a lot for the Warriors. I think.
Yeah.
The games in New York.
Harry, the character of the brain, Harry apparently said that the way he modelled that character was that he thought of himself as a young poet.
Okay. He dresses like an artist.
Has the neckerchief thing going on, which there you go.
Yeah, okay.
So I didn't do what he wants, man.
Say whatever the fuck he wants.
So moving on, we have Adrienne Barbeau playing Maggie. Already seen her in Swamp Thing, and I always say that with a smirk. And Someone's Watching Me. So this is the last movie she would play.
Do they divorce with this?
It's 1984 they divorced.
So this is 80.
This is 81.
Made in 80 for 81?
Yes.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
So this, and they're still together a few years after that, but yeah.
How many people has he been married to?
2, I think, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I thought he had some.
He's not like James Cameron.
Yeah.
So he's like she's in this. Yeah.
But again, that's not really her.
And this role was written for her too, specifically.
But is she good?
She's good in the role.
She's a strong female again.
Yeah, it doesn't do a lot.
It's probably she does okay with what she's been given, but at this point in Hollywood's history, there wasn't much meat on the bones with this.
The character she played in The Fog was better in terms of from an acting point of view.
Yeah, that's true.
She's kind of arm-candy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She could handle a gun, and she could tell she looked after Brain.
Yeah.
I kind of got that relationship. There are some really bright people that just have no common sense, and she was there to protect him from that.
Yes.
Almost as if like Duke had assigned her to him.
Well, it sounded like she was with not in a sexual sense, but she like Duke basically got her to stay with him.
To keep him.
I think if that's not said, it's definitely said in the audio commentaries again. So we also, just rounding out, we also have Tom Atkins coming back again. So we've seen him in The Fog. He's playing Reme or Reem, however we pronounce his name. We also have the return of Charles Cyphers playing the Secretary of State. We know him as Sheriff Brackett, and he was in The Fog. Susan Hubley, as we mentioned, who played the girl in The Chock full of Nuts, who used to be married to Kurt Russell. And they had a child together as well. She also played Priscilla Presley in the Elvis TV movie as well, which is where they met. Frank Doubleday, as I mentioned, also would be Romero as the weird guy, and he was also in, as I said, the White Warlord in Assault on Precinct 13. Apparently, there is another character too in it who's called Cronenberg, named after David Cronenberg. So a couple of other things, as I said, like this is written back in 1974. It cost $5 million to make. The effects, as I mentioned, were animated. So a couple of things that Carpenter said on movie making business. He said you've just got to take a chance. He said, openly says that Americans love outlaws and outsiders, which is why he's drawn to the Snake Plissken character. He also hasn't a respect for authority himself, so you kind of see these kind of patterns in the characters that he creates. Kurt did say that it was the first time in his life that he physically had to get into shape for a movie. He also says that some men are islands and want to be that way, and that's what drew him to that kind of a character. And I think I mentioned that stuff there. Everyone is corrupt in this world, which is something to kind of point out.
Yeah.
Snake is the only one with integrity because he doesn't care about anybody. So he kind of stays true
to that classic,
who he is.
I'm not racist, I hate everybody.
Yeah.
It's a bit like
yeah, that's it. And Lee Van Cleef with him in it provides a bit of a balancing act there between it, and it's a perfect amount of mirth is what Kurt Russell said.
And I think they would respect each other as warriors.
Yeah.
That's if they did have a TV series, that's how you'd play that out.
What else do I want to say? I'm just trying to. I've mentioned a lot of this stuff.
Warriors is going to be a TV series.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So one of those films did get the Russo brothers are going to be making it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That suddenly got me interested now.
No,
I think it'll be good.
I reckon it'll be great.
Those guys do action really.
So there's the plane. I want to mention the plane that crashes.
Okay.
It was actually
the plane.
There's 3 bits of the plane that are in the movie. They actually found out they were trying to, because they knew they had to have a plane crash site. They were trying to cobble bits together, and then they found out that a guy owned an old plane, and said they could sell it to him for like $8,000 or something back then. And they're like, okay. So they basically cut it into 3 pieces, plonked it onto the set without any permits. and shot that scene where Kurt Russell stumbles onto it.
So again, for me, I sort of reached the conclusion about the movie. It just feels like, because it is such a step up from everything he's done before, but it sounds like it's just the perfect storm. Just things line up, and things happen that just help. Like that sounds like a coincidence. They have a big city block that just happened to be available to shoot. That was already pre-scripted.
So many things fell into play for this.
It makes it look more than $5 million.
Yeah.
If you were going to do it now, you just go straight to Detroit. I think.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Detroit's the current
like
city.
the place to go for that.
But you'd hire security. No, it's tight. I delete that. Sorry.
Yeah, I might.
Don't offend people.
Yeah. But yeah, like you're right. It's everything feels like. This is why I wanted to end on this one as well for this season, because you're right. It is the turning point, but I particularly wanted to end on this one because it's the turning point. This is where we've been watching him develop his craft, and this is the point where I think things just escalate for him, and then we get kind of a semi-cool period coming up next.
Oh, this is really
so like. For me, this is a good point to kind of hang our hat for a moment on the season.
It's also, thinking about it, like he's a big fan of setting like films over the course of a night. Like he's done. I'm just thinking back. We talked about Halloween and Solid Precinct 13.
Yeah.
Fog's kind of 2 nights, but kind of only
right.
Begins one night, finishes another night.
Yeah,
and then he kind of from here on in. It's a little bit different.
Yes.
But I'm not sure about Dark Star, obviously.
Well, that's set in space, so that
you wouldn't know. Yeah.
You wouldn't know.
But he seems to be. It almost plays out in real time, or as real time almost.
So if you'd pitched 24 to him, he would have loved it. Yes, I want to do that.
So I don't know, something that must attract him to.
The thing is kind of overnight once it kicks off.
Once it kicks off, it's over a night. But there's a long
little bit of lead up to it.
Yeah.
The dog and the thing, and then they go out to meet them.
So that's probably something he's pulled over from westerns, I'd say.
Yeah.
He must have. Yeah. I mean, unless he does it without even thinking.
Well, the Assault on Precinct 13, as we discussed, was a kind of reworking of Rio Bravo's. So it's that whole kind of siege mentality, which was done over one night. So, but you're right. It's definitely something that's within him.
Either that, or it's just something that's come out of a necessity of low budget filmmaking as well.
Well, there's that too. You can kind of. For me, I think there's something a lot more tension building around kind of doing something like that, where you kind of say that it's set over one short time frame, which kind of works. So it's a good point. Yeah. So I guess we're probably kind of really kind of creeping into time here. But what are your lasting thoughts on this? As far as
I fucking hated it. That was a piece of shit.
And you're saying up to this point, this is probably the best of his work.
I feel for me, this is the one that doesn't age.
Yeah.
The others have aged to me as much as I appreciate what they are.
Yeah.
And I'm biased because I didn't see those films in context.
No.
This is admittedly the first film I did see in context. But looking back at it, I think it's masterfully done. like I said, they lucked out with that crazy guy as being the first guy. He represents that world really well. He's scary. The cutting of the finger's very scary. They lucked out with having an entire city block that matches exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
The CGI stuff, which is just a model painted with fluorescent paint, works brilliantly. And that's the first time you've ever seen sort of CGI computer graphics represented that way. That looks amazing. Kurt is great as Pliskin.
Awesome.
The idea is really cool. And no, there's no real dead space. Once he's in the ninth circle of hell and working his way down to different levels, you are fearful for him. You want to see what happens next. Yeah. And so you don't get bored. You don't take a breather.
No.
Despite the pacing of being a very 80s paced sort of film, it is balls to the wall.
Yeah.
You fear for him going in there, and you fear for him all the way until he gets out. And it's done really well with the twist at the end. And it comes. There's literally a clock counting down there.
Yeah.
All of it. It's clever.
It's very good.
Visceral. Yeah, I love it.
I think out of all the ones we've talked about so far, at least, I think it's probably got the best rewatchability for me. I would go back and revisit this more often. Yeah. Probably. I mean, as great as Halloween is, I think once you know the scares are there. I try to revisit Halloween, every couple of years.
Yeah.
But I could watch Escape once a year.
Easily, for sure.
And I need to seek it out. It's unfortunate there's a local cinema that's playing it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, cool.
Soon, but I really need to see it. Yeah. Just to see. I mean, I don't know how great a print quality the print would be.
Yeah.
But it'd just to have that same experience people would have had in the cinema.
Yeah, for
back
sure.
in the 80s.
And the new Panasonic lenses, isn't it? They can show low light.
That was the genius of this particular movie.
Looks really good.
And again, just a hats off to Dean Cundy and what he was able to pull off in this. Beautifully shot film.
But I mean, it goes back to the thing too. Filmmaking is if you're an athlete, then the more you do, the better you get. And he's starting to reach his peak years. Everything just seems to be coming together for him now.
Yeah. And he always has good ideas. Like the initial, they're always like the one sentence ideas. So it's a high concept kind of thing. But at the same time, it's not like gimmicky.
No,
this feels like a real world.
Yeah,
he's built a believable world.
Even the films down the track, which he didn't quite pull off, has the germ of a brilliant idea to him.
Yeah, we talked about the fog and how we like that as a
that's right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, look, that rounds out our discussions and our final discussions on John Carpenter's early years. And it's hoping that the next kind of discussions we'll go on to, we'll be talking about Tobe Hooper and his early stuff. So do keep tuned in and listening to the posts as we put them out there in due course. Until then, I'm your host, Paul Farrell.
The Badger.
Anthony Yee.
Big Cheese.
And Ben Skinner.
Ben.
Goodbye. Just saying words.
Okay. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. John Carpenter, The Early Years, Escape from New York. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.